11, the Queen is about to welcome her 101st head of state. And he really is welcome. So here we are on the sun-dappled lawns of Buckingham Palace, where President Barack Obama has just arrived, only a few days after the Queen's historic reconciliation visit to the Republic of Ireland. And there is something that connects these two events, because when Barack Obama first became US President, many people in Whitehall were worried that he was not particularly pro-British, even a bit cool. And part of the reason for that was that Barack Obama's own grandfather was arrested, imprisoned and tortured by forces loyal to the Crown just before the Mau Mau Rebellion, one of the darker colonial moments in the young Queen's history. And so the fact, when he arrives here, the Queen has formed such a strong personal relationship with Barack Obama and his family is a sort of human reconciliation. I'm not saying that it's the most important thing in British-American relationships, of course not. But at a human level, this sort of thing really does matter.
They are extraordinarily gracious people. They could not have been kinder to us. I met the entire royal family the last time I was, the first time I was in England, in April of 2008. And then Michelle and the girls actually visited London again. And went to Buckingham Palace. She could not have been more charming and gracious to the girls. They actually had a chance to ride in a carriage on the grounds. I think what the Queen symbolizes, not just to Great Britain, but to the entire Commonwealth and obviously the entire world, is the best of England. Yeah. And we're very proud of her.
On all of these visits, small touches count. Each guest gets a special little show from the Royal Collection archives. This time it emphasises how hostile Queen Victoria was to slavery in America, and it displays King George III's anguished handwritten note, "America is lost." is a gentle little break in the day. The President is off to Downing Street for serious talks about the world economy, and then he's going to dress up for a state banquet in the Buckingham Palace ballroom, which won't be your average dinner party.
We've got the Queen and the President here, and then key other guests across the top of the table. The silver gilt that we're using is part of the grand service, commissioned by George IV in 1811, approximately, although it's been added to over the time. There's in excess of 4,000 pieces in this.
Every time, once the table is set at about 6 p.m, in comes the boss for a final check. And she really does check. What about those microphones for the after-dinner speeches? Shouldn't they be hidden? The Queen checks the menus, the flowers, the seating plan. She'll show visitors to their bedrooms, where she suggested bedside books for them. It's all gently flattering. There is no such thing here as a routine foreign visitor.
I wonder if there's anything left of Chelsea, because this is what we were rather concerned about. Good stuff went to Chelsea, but we seem to not do too bad.
I must say, though, this dinner is a humbling reminder of the fleeting nature of presidencies and prime ministerships. Your Majesty's reign has spanned about a dozen of each, and counting. That makes you both a living witness to the power of our alliance and a chief source of its resilience.
It's been a delicate unsentimental demands of international politics and old-fashioned politeness. And not everything survives Britain's changed status, as the Queen herself knows all too well.
I named the ship Britannia. I wish success and all who sail in her.
In 1953, the Queen launched the Royal Yacht Britannia, which would sail the seas for half a century as her personal vessel.
You saw a different person. The Queen in trousers and a shirt and sitting around telling funny stories from the past.
I think the yacht's just been enveloped in one huge wherever we went, the heavens opened and the wind blew.
We're the luckiest people to be able to go on holiday on Britannia, and I mean, so many memories.
She was a home away from home. I mean, certainly in the early years when they were doing sort of 6-month world tours, Britannia was home.
Aboard her, the Queen made almost 1,000 royal and state visits around the world, playing host to leaders from Boris Yeltsin to Ronald Reagan. If the Queen was Queen of the United Kingdom, Britannia would be a floating extravagance. But she wasn't and isn't. She's head of the 54-member Commonwealth. And Britannia was part of the plan to keep that extraordinary organisation, ranging from huge countries to tiny little barnacle-encrusted lumps of rock, together. But there was a secret role for Britannia throughout the Cold War.
Once the Royal Yacht was in existence, its real purpose in war was not to be a hospital ship. That was the cover story. It was her floating nuclear bunker. It would lurk in the sea locks on the northwest coast of Scotland. The mountains would shield it from the Soviet radar, and at night it would quietly go from one sea lock to another. It wouldn't be static. So if the Prime Minister was wiped out, once the Sovs knew where the bunker was that he was operating from the signals traffic,
Queen would be in a position out of the rubble to appoint a surviving Prime Minister, because only the Queen can appoint a Prime Minister. So the British Constitution was taken care of even until Armageddon. And there she would have been somewhere beyond Kyle of Lacouche, ready to do the business, when her kingdom was a smoking and irradiated ruin. Dreadful thought. Dreadful thought.
As it was, the yacht proved to be a safe haven of a different kind. Unlike her other residences, this was the only one built for her. She designed it in great detail herself, and this is what she chose. This is her bedroom on Britannia, and it is commendably plain. It's rather 1950s in style. Lots of people of that generation will recognise it exactly. And you can make the same point about the Duke of Edinburgh, because his bedroom, designed by him, is just next door. And it's a rather starker, more masculine version of the same thing. He left very detailed instructions about it, however. For instance, when it came to the pillowcase, no frills. But in 1997, the Queen was seen to shed a tear when she had to say goodbye to Britannia, as Britain's new Labour government decommissioned the yacht. Today it's a gleaming, motionless museum, tethered outside Edinburgh in Scotland.
The last cruise that we did on the West Coast in 97.
Yeah, it was very emotional. And you know, it's very sad for Granny as well, because you know, there's a massive part of her life and her growing up. I think it says up there, when you go and look round it, there's a picture of her and it says, "The place where I feel most free," which just says it all.
Most people in their 80s have stopped changing. For the Queen, that isn't an option. Central to the monarchy's survival is the constant need to adapt and stretch out to everyone from thinkers and leaders to the
example, in 1947, the Cold War really froze. And yet, in 1990, by 1990, it's over without a general war or a global nuclear exchange. And if you consider a woman who was monarch when Stalin was still in the Kremlin, seeing through all that.
What the Queen's managed to do, she's managed to bring the monarchy into the 21st century as best as she can. Every organisation needs to look at itself a lot of the time, and the monarchy is a constant evolving machine in it. And I think it really wants to reflect society, it wants to move with the times, and it's important, it does, for its own survival.
In her 60-year reign, the Queen has seen much and said little. In Episode 3, we revisit the rare moments when we've heard the Queen's inner thoughts.
What I say to you now, as your Queen and as a grandmother, I say from my heart.
Those words in that speech were her own.
We go right back to February the 6th, 1952, the day she unexpectedly became Queen. And we follow her to a country where the monarchy's future is hotly debated, Australia. And what about the Commonwealth?
She's been referred to as the glue that binds the Commonwealth together.
And in this final episode, her family reveal who the Queen herself